Hello, everyone, and welcome to the final episode of the FIRE series. For those of you who have been watching many times during the FIRE series, FIRE standing for Financially Independent, Retired Early, I've often referred to the wonderful Anne Wilson, and here she is in person. Welcome, Anne.
Hello, it is so wonderful to be here. And I love that fire. There is this sort of element of this flames, this warming when we've mastered this money stuff and can do exactly that, retire early.
Absolutely. So this is about the 6th episode, and a lot of people who've been watching this hadn't heard of the FIRE movement. I've encouraged people to realize it's a thing. If you Google FIRE movement, you'll see there's tens of thousands of people around the world who've had this epiphany that there's another way of being. And I've had a couple of people on the FIRE series who are in very different stages of that. Some people who've just started. We had Johanna in our last episode who joined your program last year and who's 1 year in. And then we've had other people who are 10 or 15 years in. But you certainly take the queen of the FIRE series in that from the decision to be financially independent until you were able to achieve it, it was 8 years in your journey. And more importantly, you've managed to maintain that coming on your 14th year now. And that's kind of where I'd like to begin chatting is, how did you get the idea that you could even pursue such an audacious thing? Tell us your story around that.
And I love the fact that you use that word epiphany, and that sort of is, and it was for me a kind of a realization, a bit of like a fog. I miraculously got a peek into a parallel universe which I didn't even know existed. That my entire indoctrination, my upbringing, my schooling, my education had all been teaching me to work for money. That there was that the way of life was study hard, get a job, work, preferably have quite a fair good dose of waspish sacrifice, and that then you're a good person, because if you haven't struggled, then it's not worth it. You've somehow cheated, and there's an aspect, and that this was this deep sort of that was just the way it was. I didn't even know that there was that was something you could even question, because questioning implies that there is something else. And I'd followed that recipe, and I'd watched my mum my father had died, and my mum had these 6 kids. Luckily, we were almost all out the bloody nest, but she was now in a position of had a small amount of money that left her really anxious about what to do with it, who to trust, where did she turn, how did she manage it now, but also how did she make sure that she ran out before the money? And that sounds brutal. It wasn't even a thought of, oh, well, how did she make sure that the money grew and looked after her so she could live a great abundant life? That even wasn't a conversation. It was like, oh shit, how do you eke it out so that hopefully you die before the money does? And this was a deep part of my being. And so I had done I'd gone and got the good job, studied hard. I did engineering, not because I gave a shit about how steel bends or stuff, but I thought that would be a good job, because also I thought, the men seemed to have this money stuff sorted. And as a woman, I saw so many women in relationships or being vulnerable about this stuff. So I knew there was a part of me that didn't want that kind of a prison, that didn't want to sacrifice my soul or my being. And let me even say, as a woman, end up being a prostitute for safety, security, financial well-being. It was like, so there was definitely some part of me unconsciously going, no. So I'm so grateful that there was that questioning part going already there, but I still followed the only thing I knew until I got to a point 10 years into this supposedly great career, earning great money, where everything I was doing was about penny pinching, saving, struggle, survival. And the marriage that I had and the money that I'd managed to squirrel away walked out the door together. And I went, that's quite successful. It happens.
FIRE series, for those of you.
And And it was really at that point sitting going, initially went into a little bit of feeling sorry for myself, because I think we can go to that and go to self-flagellation or what's wrong with me, what have I done wrong, to then go, there was this extraordinary like glimmer through this veil almost, that maybe, just maybe, it wasn't because I was stupid. It wasn't because I was a woman. It wasn't because I was blonde. It wasn't because I had somehow missed the lesson called financial well-being. Maybe the world that I had been exposed to only gave me a certain set of skills. But actually, real well-being, real ability to live life fully engaged with money working for me. And maybe there was a set of skills I'd just never been exposed to. And I think being able to sit with just a smidgen of doubt, not doubt in ourselves, but doubt that the model that we've been given just might not be true, I think has become such a powerful tool for me, and a powerful tool for anybody listening, that I think when we're prepared to then with curiosity follow those threads and go, maybe there's something else. Maybe there is another way. And that was really started and said, hang on, maybe I can live a great life, have these adventures, do all the things I want, and be financially secure, feel safe and secure, that I don't have to compromise one or the other. Because I think there was also so much of the world I'd been in. If you wanted to be a bit of a hippie or an alternative and go and have adventures and travel, well, that meant that you then wouldn't have money and you wouldn't be safe. There was a lot of like finger wagging around that, like, oh, well, one day you're going to regret that because, or there were these two almost conflicting worlds. And there was this like, hang on, maybe there's both. And so it was as though I got this glimpse of this world, which I now call the world of wealth, the world where the model of how we thrive, how money supports us, how we relate to having our needs met, and what we do with that is actually functions in a completely different way from this world of work hard, struggle, sacrifice, give up your dreams, be realistic, grow up bullshit, to actually there's this extraordinary place where our life force, our expression actually is meant to come first, and all these other elements, money, assets, work. And so I stepped through that gap, and that was then going, hang on, okay, what is it that I do between money coming in and spending it? Maybe there's a whole set of skills, and that's why I just started learning about investing, assets, managing my money in a different way, structuring how I thought. And so instead of fixating on just one of the key things there, and there's so much I want to talk about in this, so I will let you get a word in edgewise, but one of the most real things that hit me as I walked into the world of wealth, that in this world, I realized it was never about focusing on getting more money. Whereas in this world of scarcity and sacrifice, everything was almost worshiping at the altar of money. If you can just earn more, if you can just get a better job, if you can get more skills to get that next promotion, if you can get the next bigger contract, if you can get more inflow. It was this fixation with money, believing that money was the solution to then living a life that we wanted. And a lot of people might go, but Anne, we're talking about money, aren't we? Talking about financial independence. And I got into this world, and this hit me like this brick, like, oh, it's got nothing to do with money. It's got everything to do with money, but that's not where I should be focusing on. It's got to do with creating value and then having assets, so these things that can deliver the value exchange without me having to be involved. And this was such a fundamental shift to go, instead of focusing on how can I earn more money, how can I create assets, how can I invest in assets, how can I, what are assets, understanding their side, that people who've discovered this world of wealth and thrive in it know that it's assets first. It's investing in things like stocks and shares, investment property, businesses. It's all stuff that can work beside us in service of us. And that was the hugest shift. And so it was that being prepared to question, following a curiosity, maybe there's another way, and then being able to almost obsessively go after it by reading and practicing and doing, because you can't just read about it. You actually got to, get in there. And that's what started an amazing journey. And it was just 8 years of then learning how to thrive and survive and live in this amazing world of wealth. Then I got to the point where I now had enough of these things, these assets that could beaver away, and I benefited from their work, and that they can then pay for my chosen lifestyle. And as you said, it's now been I'm in my 14th year. So I guess it's 25 years since I started that journey, 8 years to get to freedom. And then the key part of learning how to keep expanding that, being in it, and now teaching thousands of others how to do it.
Remarkable. I really loved what you brought up there, this idea that you had this doubt, because I'm deeply, deeply, deeply interested in planting that seed of doubt in anybody in my community. If you're watching this and you hadn't had that realization before that there's another model, it's really what the Fire series is about. It's about just letting you know there is something else, and then talking to all of these people who've actually done it, who are doing it. And one of the points that Anne raises here is that if you have the realization that it's not about money, but actually about what happens with the money that's already in your life, that's a very powerful shift. So as she said, she took 8 years to discover what the hell to do. But importantly, now her life's work is teaching others how to do that. So it doesn't have to take you 8 years to find out what to do. And the inspiring idea that in 8 years, once you've decided what your ideal lifestyle is, you can reverse engineer that. You can it's not some kind of mystical hope and pray strategy. It's literally, you can figure out how many years until you can also retire. And retire doesn't mean that you've got nothing to do. It means you don't have to actively work if you don't want to.
And I think this is also really, really important, because I get really irritated and pissed off with a lot of the personal development and the self-help world, or maybe the spiritual gurus or whatever it is, where there's a lot of shaming of work. Sure. And, there's lots of BS out there, oh, I spend 3 hours a month and then, the rest of the time. If that's absolutely what you like to do and you want to be a daiquiri fucking expert, brilliant. But let's shame work. I think the ability to use our extraordinary creativity, our energy, our life force to create and expand is one of the most exquisite gifts we're given. It's one of the freedom of choice to be able to, something to come from us and be able to add value. Oh my God, to me, it's almost one of the core aspects of experiencing this crazy, rich, juicy, amazing life that we have a privilege to lead, is about, from nothing but our mind and our skill sets, to be able to add value and expand. And we live in a naturally expanding state, of an abundant state, of a universe. And I truly believe not only is it our right, but almost our role to contribute to that expansion. And that's what I call work. Yes. And so I'm so deeply grateful. And I think the retirement means being able to retire from this bullshit model that work is something where you check your personality, your heart, your soul, your being in a cupboard in the door, and you go and be some mindless thing because you've got to work for money. And I think to be able to have a different conversation that reclaim the privilege, the sanctity and power of work is the most beautiful.
It is. And you are the most perfect example of somebody who does that. I mean, you've written a book, you give talks all over the world, you run conferences, you have a magnificent World of Wealth workshop.
Oh, I don't know whether it's me or Tamron's frozen. Let's see.
And you mentioned that you can choose to kind of retire from the for the BS model. And my immediate thought was, if there's any example of somebody who's been able to do that and who does work from a sheer passion point of view, because it's being able to offer and expand and be in the world something amazing, it's you. I mean, you've got a fantastic book, you've host conferences all over the world, you've got a wonderful World of Wealth workshop, which is happening right now, and I'll put a link in the comments that's free for anybody to learn about these things called assets that Anne's talking about. And you also have a year-long program that's somebody who really wants to make that shift. So you are the epitome of somebody saying, you know what, I'm retired, but I've got things that I want to achieve in this world. So I'm deeply curious about why you care about that. Why do you care about other people being financially free?
And I think that there's a lot of words and work again around purpose and having mission and what's your vision for your life. And I've been curious about this, and I think curiosity is a really important thing to follow. We spoke about it. Hopefully we've ignited that to follow that curiosity of like, shit, maybe there's a different way of being. And I truly believe that our greatest purpose in life is to find the thing that brings us deep joy. And if that's baking the best cupcakes, if that is sipping the best daiquiris, if that is cycling around the world or doing the best flamenco, we got to do that. It doesn't necessarily mean that purpose always has to be of contribution. And so I started with this, that on my own journey, this curiosity led me not only to be intrigued by this, but it led me to go, well, how come more people don't know about this? How come am I the only one that has now discovered this crack into this different world? And so even when I was still working as an engineer, I found myself not able to not be nosy and stick my nose in other people's money shit. I think, and I realized that this was a super taboo subject, that in most societies and most cultures, you don't go to people and go, okay, what are you doing with your money? How much you earn? Have you got investments? Do you have debt? It was like, we don't talk about that subject, even more so than sex, than religion. I mean, shit, this was a no-go subject. And that I went, that's interesting as well. There is so much shame and confusion around the stuff and embarrassment of people, whether they've got money, feeling shamed and embarrassed and confused by that. If they don't have money, they feel shamed, embarrassed, and confused by that. There's a lot of bravado. Even in relationships, many partners don't know what their partner earns, what they spend their money on. And so that started another like, oh my God, there's another whole like juicy thing to come on. So I found myself more and more intrigued, not just on my own side, but in this. And that really became the start. And so it became this deep, curious passion of, wow, there's this amazing thing called money that weaves through every aspect of our lives, through our sense of well-being, of worthiness, of identity. And so the more I read about it for myself and my curiosity, the more I then wanted to share, because I just saw so many people struggling. And when I then achieved my financial freedom, initially it was a, oh shit, now what moment? Because often we'll say like, oh, I want freedom of choice, I want all of this stuff. But with freedom also comes responsibility. It has this double-edged sword, everything in life. It comes with an extraordinary responsibility, because first, you can no longer use the most convenient excuse that is so socially acceptable in life for people to give up on themselves, and that is, I don't have money. Oh, I would if I could, but I don't have the money. Oh, yes, I would go and do that trip that I rarely say I want to do. I'd write that book. I would get involved in that charity. I would do that dancing thing. I would learn how to sing if I only had the money. And so we've got this deeply acceptable social agreement that nobody challenges people on that. It's the easiest thing to get people to go, oh, okay. When in fact it's bullshit, because it's never about the money. It's about fear. It's about laziness. It's about courage. It's about not being afraid of being outed. And so it was this combination of my own experience, what I discovered about myself, because when I truly went into what does it take to become financially free and maintain it, I realized that the technical side, yes, learning how to invest in assets was one key element and foundation. It was vital. But there was this other whole mass of learning how to master this thing, my brain, my unconscious, my beliefs, my motivation. And so that took me on an extraordinary journey of internal discovery. And I say it was one of the greatest personal development journeys, and still is, because there's layers around it. And it was this combination of the two that went, okay, I'm really passionate about this. I see the difference made in my life that I can make in others. And I was really hungry to help others. And I went, if I'm truly clear, this is my passion. I've created this freedom for myself to do this for others and explore. And that terrified me, Tamron. I mean, there I was. I had a pretty successful engineering career, and I continued in that still for a bit, even once I was financially free. But there was this itchy little sigh that said, I want to help people with their money stuff. I want to help people with this whole area of ultimately learning how to live their fullest, greatest life with money supporting and serving them and shifting this whole relationship. But then it was like, oh shit, who am I? Why will anyone listen to me? What to do? And I had to really overcome this great big barrier of not enough. I'm not enough, good enough, which at its core is one of the big, deep roots of most people's money dysfunction as well, as feeling there isn't enough, they're not good enough, what's this whole enough monster? And so I had to put on my big girl panties and really go, wow, I need to do this as much for my own next part of my journey of expansion of what does it mean to be wealthy? What does it mean to live consciously, wealthy in an expansion way in this world, in a way that can be generative? It can be good for me, my community, for my planet, and almost a curiosity of a money 2.0. Of shifting out of this dominion of and how can we control and consume to, is there a different way of being? And so this rose that next side. And so that became a real sense of mission and purpose, and going, well, shit, let's see what I can do. And that's where the Wealth Chef started. And it just keeps expanding. This really going, I know now that the more people we can help to ignite that fire, to go through that gateway into the world of wealth, and to sit with consciousness to go, what does it mean to be wealthy in a way that is sustainable, healthy for all? Oh my God, we can make such a difference. And we need to. I mean, it's hard not to look out the window at the world and go, the old model of fear and scarcity and controlling and that side no longer works. So we've got to find a whole new model. And that's what, I'm passionate about it. I know you are too. I mean, you just help so many people in your own way, guide them into this other way of being.
Absolutely. Well, I, for one, am personally deeply grateful that you managed to put your big girl panties on and face that fear, that enoughness fear. I often speak about with any of my students or people in my community that if you're feeling a terrified excitement, it's an important indicator to keep going, because it is terrifying to show up in your biggest and best version of yourself. So if somebody's watching us live, and you can let us know in the comments if you're live or you're watching the replay and thinking, holy, I wouldn't even know where to start. This is terrifying. There's some terrified excitement in stepping through into this world of wealth. What encouragement would you give them?
So, I share that I got to financial freedom in 8 years. But what I want to say, what does that mean? It means at the end of 8 years, and it was August, I think it was August the 13th. So it's almost, going, was where my net worth, which is the sum of my assets, were big enough to pay for my lifestyle. So there is a real clear destination point, which is like a tick point, like, oh shit, I could choose to stop at that point and going. But my freedom started a lot earlier. My freedom came when I had the courage to step through that door and have that curiosity to go, there's another path, have the courage to go, yes, this is the tick box that society has told me that if you follow that, you'll be safe, you'll fit in, you'll conform, you'll be bored to hell, you'll do all of that. You'll have the 2.5 children and the picket fence and whatever that looks like. You'll have the mortgage on the house, but basically you're going to be numbed. And when I took that first step, that's when the freedom came, the vitality rose. But the freedom also came because I realized there was a step-by-step path. There was actually a plan I could follow. And initially I had to flounder around a bit, and I was this octopus on roller skates. But as the more I read and put this together, there was this clear path. And that's now what I teach. I realized, the reason why less than 4% of the population in the world ever achieves this place of freedom of choice, of freedom of expression by having this relationship with money is not because of lack of desire or want. It's one, not even realizing that's a possibility. And then two, when they do realize, knowing that there actually is a structured process. There are steps to follow. There are things to do just over and over. And that also, it's not a one-hit wonder. We've got to break out of this lottery mentality of the one business you're going to create that is going to rescue you, this person you're going to marry, that rich relative that's going to pop their clogs and you're going to get that money or whatever it is. Because you realize this is a way of being. It's like health. You learn how to do things that then make you thrive in that area. And so the freedom comes by going, it's just focusing in a different direction, knowing that it is possible and being prepared to take one step at a time, to find that path, to get that path in place, and then just to follow it. And so you are free as soon as you've realized that the road you're on is taking you nowhere and you choose to take one step. And so freedom is always just a step away. A freedom is when we just become awake. We become conscious and go, until now, I've just been following an unconscious script that actually I don't have to follow. I can get off that path. It doesn't matter how late I've left it, whether I'm deep in debt, whether I have no clue what's going on, it doesn't matter how far down that other path is. We're free as soon as, that fire is ignited. We go, oh my God, there's a different way. And we've got the courage to step off that path. And this is so key. I mean, you and I have spoken about this often, my darling. And I think we both so respect every person that one is prepared to even question the path they're on. Because that, for some people, it can be like the ultimate taboo. This is rebellious shit. These are change makers to go, everything we've been told by religion, parents, education, society, that's what you should be doing to be a good girl, to be a good boy, to fit in, to be successful. Yeah. Then be prepared to go, maybe that's bullshit. And then put that down. And then, with eyes wide open, take one step onto a different path. And so I just want to encourage people that while it is scary, and I'm not going to tell you it isn't, it's just emotional scary. It's still just a movie that all you've got to keep doing is just choosing that one step. And then with that one step in consciousness, find the resources, find the teachers, find the path that can give you the steps for you to keep going. And that's all we have to do, because as soon as we've done that step, you're free.
That's such a brilliant perspective shift, that you actually already are free once you've started the journey. And that brings me to the last idea. So if you're watching and you've got any questions you wanna write just while we chat about this last idea, is that it's not a destination, it's not a one-hit wonder, it's not a get there and it's over, it's not the one big thing. It's actually about a way of being and a lifestyle that you are going to then maintain. So maybe the last thing that you can just share your thoughts on for us, Anne, is that there is, even if you reach your freedom number, you then you transition into this journey of making sure that you keep your money supporting you and your assets supporting you. It's not a once I'm there, it's over, I've arrived, confetti kind of thing.
Oh God, I'm still hoping that they do invent, that pill that will give me and that gorgeous body, and gravity never has effect again. So there are certain areas of my life I'm still a bit la-la, and I'm hoping for it. But I know it's just a little bit of Looney Tunes thinking. But many people think that with their wealth or with money, that there is this one point that, oh my God, thank God I can tick that off. But it's something you maintain and master. And at the end of the day, we are all given this extraordinary business to manage, and not just manage, to lead and expand. And it's the business called our lives, this extraordinary, amazing business. And so when we can approach and go, our financial flow, what's happening, is one of the key things that any business owner knows they need to be looking after. And so when you get your freedom number, the most exciting next stage comes along of going, how do I keep expanding this? What do I want from this freedom, this next level of freedom it's given me? What is that privilege that I'm going to take that leadership and that value with this extraordinary life I have, this business, and now having this extraordinary inflow? And what do I need to do to keep that inflow going? I chose to keep expanding it because I then set myself another goal and go, oh my God, it's like realizing that if you've now developed a set of skills to be able to farm and create extraordinary, crops, why would you choose not to keep expanding it? Not just for me, because there's actually only so much I can consume and that I want to consume, but I can now spread that out and go. And what an amazing privilege for me. So it becomes a different set of whys. There's still the strong why, and this is really important. We've got to have a strong why. Usually that's out of us as well. At first has to be a why for us. We've got to know that the greatest gift we can give to our family, our kids, the world, is our own financial freedom. To know that we're never going to be a burden on anyone financially. We're never going to be able to go into scarcity and fear. That we are going to take responsibility to be able to bring our greater selves. But once we're in that place, we then go, oh, this can now ripple out. And so my goal now is to keep expanding that and going to live in a place where I live on less than 10% of the income that my assets generate, so that I can contribute 90% of that. So it shifted from where I used to live on 90% and 10% contribute. And so that's the next sort of goal, because it becomes this, it's like if you are an amazing painter and you've learned how to do that, why would you stop doing that? But you've really got to have this big why. You've also got to realize it's something that needs to be maintained. Assets are like an extraordinary team in a business. They know what to do. They can get on and do their job, but they've got to be given a vision. They've still got to given a bit of attention, be told what is needed. Money needs to be given directions. If it doesn't, it will flow to somebody else who will give it attention and value. And this is another key thing. We cannot be ever choose to be disconnected from our money. And if we want to be disconnected, if that's the aim of the game, to go, oh, I can't be bothered with the money stuff, or oh, it's dirty, or oh, it's complicated. It can feel that. I'm getting a bit personal, like maybe a bit woo-woo here, but it literally will flow to others who go, not in a, oh, my money, let me hold on to it, but go, wow, this is a mechanism that expresses value. It has extraordinary potential. It's got amazing power. Let me, with consciousness, intentionality, leadership, and vision, give it direction. And that's all that our money wants from us, but we need to keep doing that. And that's then what becomes this amazing maintaining process of truly living wealthy.
Remarkable, especially where you shared that your maintenance phase, which could be just around the corner if you make the key shifts now, you can then choose what direction you take, and that's some people think if they want to give back, they have to dedicate their life to working for a nonprofit. Actually, use the skills you have, continue to build wealth, and to be able to give back in a way through the mechanism, the assets that you've built is again a revolutionary idea. So, and it was really, I actually got chills as you were saying that, a really, really powerful idea. So, and I'm in absolute awe of your life's work. I'm in absolute awe of you. I'm so grateful. I know that people who are watching this lives have been changed now that the curiosity has been piqued and that freedom has already started.
Quite literally.
Yes, the fire has been started. So I just want to thank you really deeply. I have immense gratitude for your work and for who you are and for how you show up. And I just want to thank you on behalf of everyone who's watching this, and specifically for me and the information that you make freely available for everyone. Thank you so much.
My darling, well, thank you. And thank you for the platform, as you know, just being able to share it and the work you do. And yes, the World of Wealth free workshop I do once a year, the online digital training is still available for a few more days. So I'm sure you'll share that link. Jump on in. It'll just be such a privilege, because be curious, dive in, be prepared to take that step. And if it's feeling a bit like, oh, I don't have the time, or later, one of my amazing mentors always reminds me that our freedom is through the door we fear to walk through most. And often it's not a fear of like, terrifying, scary stuff, but often it's a fear of just, oh, well, I don't have the time. Maybe it's busy, left too late. But it's a fear of letting go of the comfort of our familiar suffering. And we do need to have that courage. And I know you and I are just so deeply in awe of everybody who chooses themselves, who chooses to use that fire, which is just such a beautiful analogy, to light up a way for them to truly experience life by having the courage to sometimes walk through the doors that look a bit dingy, dark, don't know whether I got the time, can I do it? But have that curiosity prepared to walk through. So I just encourage anyone who's listening, just say, which door do you need to walk through right now? And when you do, you'll be so amazed by what happens when you put yourself and life, when vitality, when you put your energy to life.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye, everyone.